Welcome back to Fiction Fridays. Today we are discussing this one. So this is a book that was really popular on TikTok, and I was like, I could read it, see what it's about. Most of the recommendations have not been it for me, but this one, I mean, it kind of fits into that, but like it's not as bad as the other ones. Like I actually finished this one. The other ones I haven't because it was so bad. So this is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. He is also here in Utah. He teaches at the Mormon school. So that's, I try not to judge authors, but that is a little bit of a red flag. And apparently it's really common in his books. This is the first book I've read from him. And apparently one of the things he does is he just weaves in a lot of LDS stuff into his books, which is like, oh no. So it does make me cautious. A lot of people have told me to read Mistborn, which is also by him, but also they're mostly Mormons that tell me that, so I don't know. But this book, knowing that he lives here in Utah, initially the first part of this book, I kept thinking, I'm like, did you get your inspiration from the Salt Lake? Because like, dude, it feels like you got your inspiration from the Salt Lake. Like, the dust storms, the dry, the fact that, like, it kind of felt like the only animals really were, like, the seagulls, which is Utah. And just the way he was describing it, I just kept picturing it being the Great Salt Lake was the inspiration. Because obviously it goes way off the deep end for that. But, yeah, like, at the beginning, that's kind of how I felt. It really detoured from there. And so, overall, if you don't know what this book is about, this, I don't know, it's weird. So the premise is that I don't know where we are. I have no idea what planet, world, universe, no idea. That's not explained at all. But we have our main character, Tress, who, I don't know if I'm saying her name right. That's how I read it in my mind. I actually read it as Tess, but I know it's Tress, but I was like, that's a weird name. But anyways, so we follow her, and she is just kind of your average kind of poor gal, and she ends up flirting with, like, the Duke's son, and then she goes on a gallant quest to go save him, because sometimes the prince needs saving and not the princess. And so that's the premise of this book. Personally, this wasn't one of my favorites. I think it's personal preference. And just the way the story is told, I just didn't really like it that much. So number one, the world building was so not explained. I was so confused the entire time. Like, what, like, I was thinking of spores from Star Trek. I don't know if that's what they were supposed to be. I don't know. That's what I kept imagining. And how you would have a sea of them, and like, it wasn't really explained very well of like world building in this one. And then also, like, I don't know the exact age range this is aimed for, but like the plot and the verbiage and like the conflicts really felt very low for a book. And it's not that it was low stakes, it was very low conflict and very low like any kind of pushback. And like, then it kind of changed. Like the beginning of the book, I'm like, oh, okay, we're going kind of like with Legends and Lattes, where like we just kind of are doing stuff, just kind of chilling, putzing around, doing our own thing. Cool. Like, figured that was what it was gonna be, and it's like, oh, well, okay, it's gonna be that kind of a book. Like, cool, because like the parents are like not typical responses. It's like, oh, well, of course our daughter is so smart and she should go do the thing. Okay, sure, whatever. But then about halfway through the book, it kind of really starts to change, and the tone of the book changes. But then we return back to it at like the major big conflict parts of the book, and it was like multiple cop-out. Really, I didn't like the endings. Like the big baddies we're leading up to this whole time fall so flat so fast. It was just, we'll talk about it in the spoiler section, but it was like, really? Like, 400 something pages we're building up to that? Oh. Like, it didn't match the pacing of the middle of the book. And honestly, the pacing in this book was really slow. And like, halfway through the book, spontaneously, this other character kind of starts to tell the story, but only kind of when it's like convenient. And that one is like first person. But then also somehow the narrator of the story knows what's going on with our main character, Tress, in her mind and her feelings. So that was really jarring. Like, I don't know why we did that. Because it's fine to switch POV, but like make it very distinct. And it'd be like the middle of a page we're switching. No rhyme, no reason, no warning. And you're like, okay. And it was a weird character to pick anyways. It was like, what's the point? Like, why did your editor allow this? Like, if it was self-published, I would give a lot more credit. But this came from a publishing house. I don't know why the editors allowed that. I feel like they should have separated it maybe, different font, something to make it stand out. So anyways, I think he has kind of alluded that this will have more books. I'm not gonna read them. But it says, I am excited to pronounce this first book to you. So like, I don't know, just, it wasn't it for me. And like, the other one that I just finished reading, Felice and the Wailing Woman, so much better. And like, that story was also the woman, girl really, is saving everybody. But I don't know, this just, it wasn't it for me. Now, was this book worth all of the hype? I don't think so. I managed to get my copy. There's this little sticker on the front here for a reason. So this is the Lucky Day collection. 0 holds or renewals, limited items to 2, 7-day hold, or 7-day loan. So they had a section of these, there was like, I don't know, like 10 books at the library, where they had them that were the hot books. And everyone has been trying to get these books. And so you could grab it, read it in a week, and bring it back with no penalty. And it would get you off the wait list, because when I got on the wait list, it was like 157. And so I've slowly crept down into like the 60s, slowly waiting for this book. I wasn't sure it was gonna happen this year. And so when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I can read a book in a week. I do usually a book a day, so like, not a big deal. Maybe a couple days. I read it over the weekend, not a big deal. So anyways, I don't know that it was really worth that hype. It's like, I've read better books. I feel like, again, even the last one I read was way more worth it than this book. But I think a lot of fiction just comes down to personal preference. This one just really wasn't it for me. I think if you were more into like the sci-fi fantasy comboing, weird world stuff, that might be more your alley. But that's not really mine. But I wanted to read it because everyone was talking about it and they're like, oh my god, it's the best thing ever. So I decided to read it. Let's get on to the spoiler section so I can actually tell you like why I didn't love this. So we're not necessarily going to be going in order, but the fact that the rat, mouse, whatever, Huck, is the prince dude, I know he's not a prince, but for all intents and purposes, he's a prince. Like, and he's there helping her, that really defeated the purpose of her rescuing the prince. If you're gonna gender swap that, that doesn't work if he's also there helping her. That she's not on a mission to rescue him, she's not actually rescuing him, he's there helping her the entire way. So that was kind of like a cop-out, I felt like. And like, the character changed from how he was as a human, as a rat or whatever. Like, and then when he goes back to human, then he like goes back to his human ways. And it just didn't fit, I didn't feel like. It was like, again, such a cop-out way to deal with it. Like, why can't the prince just be locked up? Like in Cinder with Kai. That's the royalty I'm talking about. This was just not it for me. Then we have the boat situation. I don't know why they would be so afraid of becoming dead runners, and like why you would become a pirate in the first place if you're not afraid of that. Like, that didn't make a lot of sense. And the captain was weird, and like, again, with this weird world that's not explained. Like, how are you able to have spores in you, but some of them are fine, but some of them aren't? And there was just too many to keep track of. And it was just like, it felt like when you have like some of those writer groups you get into and some people have some whack ideas and you're like, you are gonna need to really be good at storytelling to make this world make sense. You can do it. It is achievable. But it takes a lot of skill and a lot of really good editors and beta readers to get that to work. And like, this didn't feel like that did that. It just was so confusing. And like, it wasn't really explained that well. And the plot just dragged so much. Like, the middle of the book was so boring. The being on the pirate ship really should have been like that big. And it was too much. And then when we finally get to like actually handling stuff, it was like the dragon scene was an absolute letdown. Like, the dragon should not be outwitted by some 18-year-old. And the, like, captain, who's, like, probably at least double her age, shouldn't be outwitted by her. That made no sense. It was just plot convenience. I felt like it was just, like, it was too easy. And again, I'm cool with that. I loved Legends and Lattes. It was an easy plot, but it was maintained the whole time. This was like trying to up the stakes a lot, but then not, but then yes, but then no. And again, the world being super complicated on top of that just did not do it for me. And then we get to the sorceress, and then she's like, well, I only have a 1 in 5 chance of winning or losing or whatever, so I'm gonna just run away to my other planet. And you're like, what? And like, it was just so stupid. And then the one dude, Hoyd or whatever, I don't know if that's how you're supposed to pronounce his name, that character just didn't even need to exist, really. Like, he was there strictly for plot convenience, which also was like, why, what? Like, I don't care about any of these characters at all. Like, they all were like so flat and boring, and like there's nothing to grasp onto. And then when the plot is just like, oh, how convenient, when you're at your big battles, it's like, really? I thought you're supposed to be like a good author. And like, it sounds mean, but like, this just, I expected more for the amount of praise that this author has gotten. I thought he could pull off that kind of a plot twist. Maybe not like an Ender's Game plot twist, but like kind of close. Because again, it felt like very weird with like the alien world thing, but then it was also like ye olden times simultaneously. Like, I just don't know what was going on with this book. I didn't like it. So anyways, I am glad I rented this from the library and I didn't go get it from like Barnes & Noble. Sometimes it's nice just to read through these really hyped books to see if it's worth your while, and this just wasn't it for me. It's not that it's a terrible book. I think other people, and I mean, look at the reviews, other people love this book. It's just personal preference. I just felt like the plot could have been better, and like, you could have made me care about the characters a little more. You know, just kind of were so flat, and there was no really voice to any of them. They were all just this weird prose of like him kind of being a narrator, but kind of not. And he said he got his inspiration from The Princess Bride, so I wonder if that might have been a contributing factor. I don't know. This just wasn't it for me. So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Make sure to check out my other books. I have 3 published. The 4th one is coming out later this, well, like the next month from now. It's gonna come out in August. So make sure to check out that on my blog. I always have it linked down below. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.